Hi guys, Mr. Hill here with your history lesson for today. So our last lesson, we designed our Anglo-Saxon brooch. Today, we're going to make it. So we found out that Anglo-Saxon jewelry signified their status within the group. So the more ornate their jewelry was, the more detailed, the more decorated it was, the higher status they had within their group. So it was often very ornate and filled with precious metals and stones. So like the examples we've got here, we've got gold, we've got red stones, and there might be rubies. We've got bright red colours, blue colours in there, all that would have been very difficult to produce at that time. We've got, again, reds and golds and blues. So there's a bit of a pattern developing with the colours that they used. They liked their reds and their golds and their blues. So red seems to be quite a recurring theme. So whether you've picked that up in your design or whether you've done something completely unique that's just all about you, that's absolutely fine. So again, we've got reds and golds in this one, and we've got patterns as well that repeat going around. So that's what you designed for your last lesson. And then a modern interpretation there. So your task was to design your brooch. You could research it, follow an original design, or create your own, which is what we've done here. We've followed an original design. We've got something very close to what originally would have existed. So today, you're going to be making your brooches out of salt dough. So you will need some salt and flour. Now, if you remember at the end of last lesson, we asked you to make sure you had some. So if you have got it, brilliant. If not, maybe go and get some. If you can, ask mum or dad very nicely if you can have some salt and flour, and then come back and we'll get started. Right, have we got everything we need? We should have salt, we should have flour, we should have some water as well, because that's going to bind it all together. We'll need a bowl to mix everything up in. So if you haven't got any of those things, I'll wait for you here. Okay, got everything we need now. Fantastic. So make sure you're working tidily. If you spill it, you clean it. Remember that. So roughly, if you get yourself a mug or a small cup, you want 2 cups of flour and 1 cup of salt. So if you're measuring this out, it's about 250 grams of flour and 125 grams of salt. And what you want to do is either with a spoon or with your hand is give it a good mix together so that you haven't got a big clump of salt on one side of the bowl and a big clump of flour on the other side. This will be important later on. Once that's mixed together, bit by bit, stir in a cup of water, or about 3/4 of a cup of water, about 250 mils of water. Little bit by little bit, the mixture will start to bind together. What you don't want is something so dry it falls apart when you pick it up, but you don't want something that's so wet and sticky it sticks to everything it touches. You want something in the middle that's a bit like bread dough. If you've ever made bread, that's the consistency we're looking for. Step 3. Turn the mixture out onto a flat surface and knead until you have a smooth dough. This might take you 5 or 10 minutes. So if you need to, pause the video here, and once it's into a nice smooth ball, press play to carry on. Okay, got it all kneaded out, ready to shape it. Let's move on. So roll the dough out until it's about 1 centimetre thick. Create a nice flat surface. So a rolling pin is the ideal tool. A glass bottle will work just as well, but a word of warning, put some flour on the bottle first so that the dough does not stick. Mark out a circle. So use the same plate or cup that you drew round to begin with. Mark out the circle again and use a knife. So a butter knife or just an ordinary kitchen knife. You don't need one of the sharp ones. Just one of the ordinary knives you'll eat with will be absolutely perfect for this. You don't want to cut through your salt dough and into the worktop at home. I don't think your parents would be too impressed if you did that. And I really don't want phone calls to school saying, Mr. Hill said to get the sharpest knife out of the drawer and cut through. Use an eating knife or a butter knife. So carefully cut out the circle, and pat down any rough edges. So you just take your thumb and just rub it round gently, and you'll have some spare dough left over for your own projects. Now, if you really want to get ahead of yourself, you could make some extra Christmas decorations for next year. But that's just a suggestion for what you could do. What you could do as well is scroll it all back up into a ball and make another brooch. You could have some experimentation with the different designs you can think of for your brooches. So, edges all nice and smooth, we're ready to move on. Same as you did for your drawings, really gently and lightly mark across. So again, use your knife for this and just very, very gently, very, very faintly, mark your line across. Now, using a different tool or different tools, you can begin to draw your design. Now, what you can do, if you use a pencil, you can use the point of your pencil and just go along it like lots of little dots to join them all together. If you need to make some round details, you could use the end of a pen lid. They normally have a hole in the end. You can just stamp it in, and that's going to give you your details. You're going to make the design into your salt dough. So remember, the first thing we did the first quarter. We've done it, we've carved it into the dough, but you could, now there's a suggestion. You've got lots of dough left over. You could make your design out of the leftover dough so it's raised up. So rather than it being marked into it, you could have it as a raised design like some of the other brooches we've looked at. If you want to get it to stick, a little bit of water. So if you have some water left over, dip your finger in the water and rub it on the back of what you want to stick on, and then press it firmly on. That'll help glue it to the dough. So they help glue the dough together. So keep on going, just like you did with your drawing, one section at a time. That's part 2 done, part 3 done, part 4 done. So it's a repeating pattern, remember. So it's going to be the same in all 4 quarters, or as near as you can get it. If you look at some of the older brooches, they're not all identical in each square or each quadrant, because they didn't have the tools to be able to do it. They were all done by hand, so there will be slight differences, and that will add to your detail. Okay, once you've done that, heat an oven up to 180 degrees and put your disc in there for about 20 minutes. Don't forget to check on it every now and again, because the smell of burnt salt dough is not pleasant. I've been there, I've made that mistake. Your parents, again, will not forgive me if you forget to take it out. So put a timer on for 15 minutes and check it then. And then if you think it needs a bit longer, add 5 minutes on. Don't just chuck it in for 20 minutes and then forget about it and go and do something else. So you might need an adult to help you with the oven. It is very hot, and we don't want you burning yourselves either. So finally, once it's cool, so you must leave this. It's probably going to take an hour or so to cool down to the point where you can actually then go back over it and paint on your design. So I've painted mine on. You could use felt tips, they'll work quite well on this. You could also stick on some fake jewels. So if you've got some of the little crystals that come with the art sets, you can stick those on. Be creative, but remember, if you make a mess, you need to tidy it up. You need to be responsible for the mess that you make. And as I said, you drop it, you make the mess, you tidy it up. Have fun. I look forward to seeing what you make put up on tapestry. Stay safe, and I'll see you again very soon.